What's up everyone, my name's Alec. Welcome to my channel, Cinemoto. This is where I work on motorcycles. Today we got a really special project here. We got a $50, that's right, $50 Kawasaki. This is a G5 100. This is a 1974 or 5 model, I believe. I think it's a 75. Anyway, I found this online, picked it up for $50. That's all I paid, and I got this from the original owner. This thing's been sitting for about at least the last 10 to 20 years. The only modification I did to it was air up the tires just so I could get out of its little hiding spot in the garage where it was parked for the last however many years. So we got the tires aired up, I got this thing back home, and now we got to get this thing cleaned up, and this thing is really dirty, so this might take a good power wash, and then this bike's going to need some work, but I think we can get it running. I was lucky enough to get the title and the original owner's manual with this bike, which was really awesome. And honestly, any bike for 50 bucks, how can you pass up? So now that we got the bike all cleaned up, the first thing that we're going to try to tackle here is getting this gas tank off. I saw a little bit of a surface rust in there, so we're going to try and soak that in some vinegar and get that cleaned up. First things first, we're going to need to get the fuel line off here. So this thing was empty, so we're going to fill this tank up with some apple cider vinegar and see if we can get some of that surface rust out. I'll show you that in a minute here, but overall the tank looks pretty good. It doesn't look like there's any holes in it, so that's a great sign. So in getting this tank all cleaned up, you can see in there, it's in pretty decent shape. It's really not too bad. I'm just gonna give it a little surface cleaning so it doesn't deteriorate with any of that rust or moisture that's in there. In taking this thing out, this petcock would not move. It's pretty frozen, so I unscrewed it, and you can see here, this thing is, it's in pretty bad shape. We'll see if we can save it, but we might not be able to. This petcock does not turn at all, so we'll see what we can do with this. So there it is. That's the tank after, that's about 48 hours of apple cider vinegar in the tank, nothing else. Looks really clean in there. Now we can put some gas in it. I neutralized the solution here with distilled water and baking soda and shook it out 2 times as you just saw. So we'll let this dry out now. We're gonna pull the side cover off, and on this bike, this is where the carburetor is located. This is a rotary valve engine. Kawasaki used to make all types of these things, and the carburetor was located down here, and it pulled the air and fuel in through the crankcase. So a little bit different than what we're used to today, but this was kind of the technology they had at the time. All right, so we got the G5 up on the stand here. Our next order of operation is to get both these wheels off. We got brand new tires for this thing because these tires are totally shot, dry rotted, and definitely not safe to ride on. But in the process of putting new tires on, I think it might be best to clean these wheels up. As you can tell, they are pitted really bad, and these are steel rims. Well, you can see here, this is not ideal. These spokes are really rusty. And I don't know how well this is going to clean up. This is definitely a rather sketchy wheel, but we'll see what we can do to make this thing look nicer. Hopefully we don't have to replace this wheel. Well, I'm glad I didn't sandblast these right away with the power washer. These cleaned up pretty darn good. I mean, this rear one definitely cleaned up really nice. The front one is okay. But I think I'm going to take a little Scotch-Brite pad here and go over these things. And I might actually get this chrome to shine a little bit. The spokes are always going to look dull. That's just kind of the nature of it at this point. So we'll see what we can do. Alright, so as you can see, I got the new tires on this thing and it looks pretty freaking awesome. The only problem is this rear tire is so big that whatever power this bike does make, that's probably going to rob it. But you get what you get when things are on sale, and this is a budget build, and that tire was on sale. That's what we ended up with, and that's what we're sticking to. I just had to modify the arm right here, the brake torque arm, so this would clear, and it clears with no issue. Looks pretty good. Our next step, we're going to try fitting up a universal front fender, because the front fenders for this bike are obsolete and extremely hard to find. And if you do find them, they're a lot of money, and I don't want to pay a lot of money for a fender. So I got a $15 universal one from UFO, so we're going to get that thing mounted up and see how it looks. So here we have the UFO universal fender, and this thing is drill custom to fit, which is nice, so I don't have to try and modify old holes. It's still a high quality product made in Italy. Luckily they give you this nice grid here, so we're going to try and match the grid up to the holes and just kind of position this where we think it looks best. This fender is a little bit big for this bike. It could stand to be a little bit smaller, but I'm not going to modify it. I'm just going to make it work, and overall it should look pretty decent. Alright, well, it's all snugged up, and that's kind of the final result. I think it looks pretty good for just universal fender. Obviously our gap here is not great, but we had to split the difference on the tire here, and that's where it makes the most sense. Here, maybe not so much, but again, it's a universal fender, so we'll take what we can get. Everything clears, doesn't hit the horn, which is kind of cool, so we can keep that. And yeah, that's how it looks. Not too bad. So as you can see, this rear fender here is pretty well cracked, and you can't easily get replacements for these things, so we're gonna have to fix this. And this is gonna be a perfect opportunity to try out this new plastic welder I got here, which is this gun. And it puts these little staple-like metal pieces into the plastic to bond them together. A little bit better than just heating it up. So give this a shot and see how it works. All right, so I just got the new fuel line in. It's not perfect, but it'll work. We're just got an inline filter for now to try and get out whatever gunk might be left in the tank. Make sure that's caught in there, not going into our carb and gumming that up, or worse, getting into our engine. Take off this air cleaner cover. See what's under this thing. That worked pretty good. Unfortunately, most of the hardware on this bike has been stripped out over the years. All right, time to see what our air cleaner looks like. A little bit of maybe a mouse nest. Our air cleaner is pretty much gone. You can see the foam there is pretty much missing. So I'm gonna take that off, clean that whole box up, and so even though I'm nowhere near done with this thing, it's at the point where it should run now. So I got the carb cleaned up, and I got a new spark plug in there. Everything's been cleaned up. Hopefully this thing should fire right up. It did pop on starting fluid, so I know the engine will run, but hopefully it'll run pretty well. It's a runner, not too bad. You know, this thing runs. I took it around the yard once and it seemed like the clutch was really bad, and I thought, well, first thing we better check the oil. I popped the drain plug out and sure enough, no oil. So I got the oil level plug out and I got some oil. We're gonna fill this thing up. We got the bike standing straight up and down. Looking down here at the foot pegs, these things were really rattly, and I wanted to fix that, and I come to find out that there's threaded nuts in the frame here that the factory bolts are supposed to go in to keep the foot pegs, and then one down here, and all these are stripped out. So what I ended up having to do is drill these things out, and we're gonna put this back on and just put a bolt right through there all the way, so that'll keep it nice and steady. The foot pegs are drilled out and bolted through there, so they should be nice and solid and not go anywhere. So I got the fender all bonded up, sanded down, and then painted. Kind of reminded me of why I'm not a body guy, because I'm not very good at this, and it definitely takes a lot of skill to be good at bondo and body work in general, and I just don't have a lot of experience with that. So this is how it came out. It's okay, it's gonna work. It's all fixed underneath. It looks pretty smooth on the top. So we're gonna get this thing installed back on the bike, and then hopefully we can take this thing for a ride.